It's just coming up for 8 a.m. Sun's up in 20 minutes. But I was just remembering, because we're watching a thing now called Pluribus, which I'm sure maybe some of you are watching, which is like, and it reminded me of like films like The Omega Man with Charlton Heston, or Day of the Triffids, when everyone in the world is infected or whatever. But then I thought, well, what's the origin of that story? And because it's like a Robinson Crusoe sort of thing, and Robinson Crusoe, and that reminded me of when I lived in Edinburgh. I had a friend called David Russell. David Russell was a guitarist, classical guitarist. Used to play with him. He was a good guy. He was like from Fife, or he was either from Dundee or Fife, but he was always on about Fife, so it might have been Fife. And he lived in Edinburgh for a while, and he used to have a friend, and we used to go there, and it was a bar, and I can't remember, it was on South Clark Street, and it was called, I think it was called the Black Knight, or the Dark Knight. It had some sort of like, a chivalrous knight thing on. It was like a rock bar, so it was like you had the Southerner bar, which was a total rock bar, biker bar, and then just further up from it was a smaller bar, and I think it was called the Dark Knight, but I can't remember. But we used to go in there because his friend owned that bar and used to run that bar, and his friend was the great-grandson of Alexander Selkirk, who was from Fife, and who Robinson Crusoe was based on, who was the guy that sailed out of Chile on a boat, and then he saw that the boat was in a bad condition. He says, well, let me off at the next island, and he got off at this deserted island, which was like all rainy and wet and windy. It wasn't like tropical island. And that's Alexander Selkirk, and his great-grandson had a bar on South Clark Street, and he was a friend of mine, of David Russell, a musician guy I used to play with. And the guy at that time, this was the time at Pinochet from Chile, and he had learned all the tricks of survival that Alexander Selkirk had, and the BBC were going to take him out to Chile to make a documentary, but then all the Pinochet thing happened, where Pinochet was the dictator, was banned from the UK, and it got cancelled, and he didn't get to go to Chile. But anyway, that's what we're watching. We were watching Pluribus from Vince Gilligan. So Vince Gilligan, and then you've got The Omega Man with Charlton Heston. And there's a couple of others as well. Well, John Wyndham, Day of the Triffids. Anyway, that's it.